There is a line in the terms and conditions that most people scroll past in less than a second. It is buried on page 43, hidden in a wall of gray text, designed specifically so you never read it. But that single line of legalese has quietly reshaped the global economy. It usually says something like this: the provider grants you a non-exclusive, revocable, non-transferable license to access the content. Notice the words that are missing. You didn't buy, you didn't acquire, you didn't own, you paid for permission. For a long time, we thought this was just a trade-off for convenience. We gave up our DVD towers for Netflix and our CD racks for Spotify because it felt like a good deal. We traded clutter for access, but while we were enjoying the infinite library, the economic logic of the subscription model began to migrate. It jumped from our screens into our cars, into our appliances, and finally into the walls of our homes. We are witnessing the systemic deletion of the concept of private ownership. It isn't happening with a bang or a sudden seizure of property. It is happening through a slow, dull, bureaucratic shift in how money works. We are moving from an ownership economy to a usership economy. And in a usership economy, you don't build wealth. You just cover the overhead of your own existence. To understand how we got here, you have to look at the stock market. Wall Street hates volatility. If you sell iPhones, you have a great quarter when the new model comes out and a quiet quarter afterwards. That up and down movement scares investors. But if you sell iCloud storage, that is money that comes in every single month, rain or shine. It is predictable. It is boring. And investors love boring. This is why every company on earth is trying to turn a product into a service. They don't want your money once. They want a percentage of your income forever. We saw the first major casualty of this in the creative world. 10 years ago, if you were a photographer or an editor, you bought a software suite. You paid a few $100s, you got a box with a disc, and you owned that tool for life. If you didn't want to upgrade, you didn't have to. You controlled your overhead. Today, that box doesn't exist. You pay a monthly fee to rent the software. If you stop paying, the program locks you out. You can't open your old files. You lose access to your own work. The tool you use to make a living is being held for ransom, $20 at a time. This was the testing ground. Once the corporations realized we would accept renting our digital tools, they started looking at physical ones. A few years ago, a luxury car manufacturer made headlines when they tried to charge a monthly subscription for heated seats. The hardware was already in the car. You had already paid for the heating coils when you bought the vehicle. But the software locked them behind a paywall. This sounded ridiculous at the time, but it signaled a massive shift. Manufacturers are realizing that selling you a machine is a terrible business model compared to renting you the ability to turn it on. We see this with tractors, where farmers are legally prohibited from repairing their own engines because the software is proprietary. We see it with smart home devices that turn into paperweights the moment the company decides to shut down the server. The object itself, the metal, the plastic, the glass, is becoming a hollow shell. The real value is the digital key required to operate it, and you will never own the key. But heated seats and Photoshop are just annoyances. The real crisis emerges when this logic is applied to the assets that actually build the middle class. For the last century, the primary vehicle for wealth accumulation was real estate. You took on debt, you bought a house, and over 30 years, you converted that debt into equity. It was a forced savings account that gave you leverage and stability. That ladder is being pulled up. We are seeing the rise of the build-to-rent revolution. Institutional investors and private equity firms are no longer just buying up distressed properties. They are building entire neighborhoods specifically designed to never be sold. These are subdivisions of single-family homes that look exactly like the American dream, but every single person living there is a tenant. The financial logic here is ruthless. A hedge fund can outbid a young family every single time. They can pay cash, they can waive inspections, and they don't care about the price of the house as much as they care about the yield of the rent. When you compete against a corporation, you are bringing a paycheck to a gunfight against a balance sheet. The result is a permanent renter class. When you rent your home, your car, your music, and your software, you have zero asset appreciation. You are essentially a pass-through entity. Money comes in from your employer and immediately flows out to a series of subscriptions. You have no equity. You have no leverage. You are financially buoyant, perhaps, but you are not swimming anywhere. You are just treading water. This matters because ownership is about more than just money. It is about autonomy. When you own a house, you can paint the walls. When you own a car, you can fix the engine. When you own a book, you can lend it to a friend. Ownership grants you the right to modify, to repair, and to share. It gives you control over your physical environment. In a usership economy, you lose that control. You are subject to the terms of service. If the landlord decides no pets, you have no dog. If the car company decides your subscription has lapsed, the engine doesn't start. If the streaming service loses the rights to your favorite movie, it vanishes from your library. You become a guest in your own life. There is a psychological toll to this. It creates a low-level, constant anxiety, the feeling that the ground beneath you is never quite solid, because it isn't. You are only as secure as your next payment. In the old economy, if you lost your job, you still owned your stuff. You had a cushion. In the subscription economy, if you lose your income stream, you lose access to everything immediately. The lights go out, the car locks, the software creates a read-only file. We have to ask ourselves why this is happening now. It is easy to blame corporate greed, and that is certainly a huge part of it, but it is also a symptom of an economy that has run out of easy growth. When you can't invent new things that people want to buy, you have to monetize the things they already use. You have to put a toll booth on the bridge. The quiet, systemic end of ownership is not an accident. It is a design choice. It is a transfer of wealth from the individual to the institution, and a transfer of control from the user to the administrator. The scary part isn't that we will own nothing. The scary part is that we might get used to it. We might accept the convenience of the subscription and forget the freedom of the deed. So, the next time you click I agree on a new update, or consider leasing a device you could buy, or look at a home that is managed by a conglomerate, pause. Look for the ownership. Because in the next decade, the divide between the rich and the poor won't just be about how much money you have. It will be about what you actually hold in your hands versus what you are merely allowed to touch.